Hello everyone! In this video, we'll show you how to play Crystal Age, a strategy and fantasy game recommended for players over 12 years old, from 1 to 4 players, with an approximate duration of 30 to 120 minutes. The objective of this game will depend on the game mode we play. In cooperative mode, it will be to defeat the Lord of Corruption. The competitive mode will consist of holding 3 turns in the crater's center. Setup. First, prepare the map of Ansel by joining 4 kingdoms, leaving the crater in the center. Then, prepare the 4 creature decks by placing in each of them as many copies of each different creature as players are in the game. Each deck has 6 different creatures. Once done, shuffle them and place the decks next to the board. If you play in cooperative mode, choose the Lord of Corruption you'll face at the end of the game. Each Lord of Corruption has a unique mechanic that can affect the whole game or the end of it. You can look in detail at every Lord of Corruption and their mechanics in the rulebook. Place the card in a visible place and the acrylic in the crater's center. Place the Guardian miniature blocking the entrances to the crater. In each of their bases, insert 2 destruction gems, a potion in the space in front of each of them, and another one in the adjacent space. Leave the dice and damage counters aside. Then, give a random hero to each player. Each of them places their miniature in 1 start square. If you play in cooperative mode, grant a gift to each hero. In solo mode, the player controls 2 to 4 heroes. Use the dials to create the life reserves of the heroes. Each player rolls a blue die. Whoever gets the highest roll will be the starting player. Once this is done, everything's ready to start playing. Game round. In each round, beginning with the starting player, each one will perform the following 2 phases. Movement phase. Mover your hero by choosing one of the 3 types of movement. Walk. You move 1 square. Jogging. You move 2 squares. If you play in the competitive mode, PvP, you have a 3rd movement. Run. You move 3 squares, but then you can only perform the action Fight against a hero, or Dominate or Destroy Corruption. You won't be able to cross a square occupied by an opposing hero. You can move in any direction, but you can't retrace your steps in the same turn. When you enter a portal, you can move to any other portal in the board. If you end your movement where there's a potion, remove it from the game and recover 3 lives. Action phase. After moving, perform one of the following actions. Fight against corruption. Draw cards from the creature deck of the corresponding zone, the wall, the biome you're in, or the crater. If your move was walking, draw 2 cards and choose one. If it was jogging, draw a single card. Then, fight against the creature. All Crystal Age cards have 4 attributes and their own abilities. Initiative determines who starts the combat. Attack. It's the number of dice or the given color that are rolled to attack. Each color of the die represents a level of corruption. Low corruption, medium corruption, and high corruption. The higher the level of corruption, the better the results. Defense. Each die inflicts 1 point of damage when it equals or exceeds the opponent's defense. Life. When life reaches 0, the opponent is defeated. Abilities. There are 9 different abilities in the first box to use during the game. The expansions add new abilities. With them, you can obtain health, modify the results of the dice, or inflict damage points. Each combat follows these steps. Pre-combat. At the start of the combat, the 2 fighters apply their pre-combat abilities. These are Ambush. At the beginning of a combat, the enemy gets an unblockable damage point. Guardians are immune to this ability. Regenerate. At the beginning of a combat or a Guardian trial, increase your health by 1 point, allowing you to exceed your maximum health reserve. Impact. Get an additional attack point of low, medium, or high corruption, depending on your icon's color. You can use all the obtained dice this way, in all of your rolls, to the end of the current combat or Guardian trial. Once you've applied the abilities of the pre-combat, whoever has the higher initiative, or in the case of a tie, whoever has triggered the combat, begins their attack round. Attack round. Offensive. The attacker rolls the attack dice of the corresponding colors and uses their offensive abilities. These are Mastery. You can re-roll one of your attack dice. You keep the last result, even if it's lower. Miracle. increase by 1 the result of your attack dice. Stage 2. Defensive. The defender applies their defensive abilities. These are Fatigue. Reduce by 1 point the result of one of the opponent's die. Consume. A result of 1 in an attack die of your opponent allows you to recover 1 health point. Health is recovered before applying the damage, and it's never able to exceed the max health reserve. Stage 3. Final. The attacker applies their final abilities. Destroy. A result of 3 in 1 of your attack dice inflicts 2 damage points instead of 1. Tear up. Your opponent gets an unblockable damage point. Finally, apply the inflicted damage points. You can spend destruction gems to inflict extra damage points. Now the attack round of your opponent begins. End of the attack round. Once the attacker has inflicted damage, and if the defender hasn't been defeated, a new attack round will begin, and the 2 of them will change roles. The defender will become the attacker, and vice versa. When you fight a creature or a Lord of Corruption, a random player will be performing its actions. Creatures will roll attack dice and use abilities according to the deck they appear from. When defeating a creature, you can keep its card and use its abilities in the next action phases. If when you draw creatures, 1 or more creatures you control appear, discard them and draw until creatures that you don't control appear. Fight against a hero. In competitive mode, when you end your movement in a crater square occupied by another hero, you fight against them following the rules described above. When a hero is defeated, they are eliminated from the game. The winner can choose one of these options. Keep all the creatures of the defeated hero. They have to choose 3 creatures to keep and discard the rest of them. Keep the guardians and the destruction gems of the defeated hero. Regenerate health. They can match their current health reserve to an opponent hero's one. Get the favor of the guardian. When you are in a square adjacent to the guardian, you can take the guardian's challenge to get its favor. First, the hero activates their pre-combat abilities. Then they suffer as many damage points as destruction gems the guardian keeps in its base. After that, roll your attack dice and use your offensive and final abilities to inflict damage. You can spend destruction gems to cause extra damage points. Steal a gem from the guardian's base for each 2 damage points caused. If you manage to cause 4 damage points in a single attack, you can keep the miniature and obtain its power. If you don't pass the trial, the Guardian's health is regenerated and moves the hero to the opposite portal. End of the game. Depending on the game mode, you perform a different action. Competitive mode. Dominate the corruption. This action triggers the end of the game. When you are in a crater square and you perform this action, place your hero in the center. Once done, you won't be able to get out of there. Draw a creature card from the crater creature deck and fight. Repeat this process in your next 2 turns. If you survive 3 rounds in the crater's center, you'll win. If there's another hero in the crater's center, you'll have to fight them to occupy its place. Remember that you can also win a competitive game by defeating the rest of the heroes. Cooperative and solo mode. Destroy the corruption. This action will trigger the end of the game. All the heroes must be in the crater square. Place all the heroes in the crater's center and begin the final combat against the Lord of Corruption chosen at the beginning of the game. This combat follows the same rules as the rest of them, but with some different aspects. Before starting the combat, the players must choose a hero as a defender for the rest of the combat. The defender will be the only one receiving the Lord of Corruption's attacks, so only they'll be able to use defensive abilities during the combat. All the destruction gems and gifts are discarded. All the heroes and the Lord of Corruption apply their pre-combat abilities, just once at the beginning of the combat. The attack round begins. The fighter with the highest initiative begins their attack round. Once the damage is dealt, continue with the next fighter, following the initiative order until every hero and the Lord of Corruption have performed their actions. Repeat the attack rounds until the life of the Lord of Corruption or the shared health life reserve of the heroes reaches 0 or below. If you defeat the Lord of Corruption, you have won the Crystal Age game. But if your health reserve reaches 0 before it, you'll lose. And so far, the tutorial on how to play Crystal Age, a very strategic game in which you'll test your courage and strength against corruption.